And welcome back, everyone, to the Zanpakuto Creation Series. Normally, I pre-record these now on Wednesday leading into Thursday, so they're up very early in the day. But yesterday, I just didn't get around to it. I had to do I redid the Q&A because more questions had come in. And so I kind of lost a lot of time doing that. That being said, we're here. Seras Victoria from Gamer Forever. What is your Zanpakuto? Now, I will admit, because of how Seras' story ultimately goes in the Hellsing storyline, in the manga/show, her Zanpakuto does mirror Alucard's to some degree. Alucard's dealt with the manipulation of blood to some degree, to varying degrees. Usually, if I remember correctly, because I don't immediately have it in front of me right now, when I didn't rewatch the video, his Zanpakuto, Shikai, took blood from others and used it, while his Bankai manipulated his own blood along with outside blood. And I'm simplifying that. Hers would still be similar to that, but in a almost reverse sense, at least with the Shikai. What do I mean by that? Well, type, obviously Keto, standard katana. Its release is let the cage bird fly. Now, this is in reference to Alucard Zanpakuto, the bird of Hermes. Because that is, the way he releases his full powers. Here lies the bird of Hermes, eating my wings so I may be tame. That's what the release is in the canon of the manga and the OVA. And a bridge is when hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. I like that a little bit better, to be honest. But regardless, bird of Hermes is still good. Its Shikai is son of Hermes. Note that's very important here. And then Bankai is a dove heir of Hermes. And translated into Japanese, that's roughly speaking, Hiramusho no Musako, roughly speaking. And then Hiramusho no Hato no Koku for the Bankai. Now, why is son of Hermes important? Well, because her spirit would be Mr. Bernadotte, would be Pip. Because that is the one soul that basically kind of merged with her being when she became a full-fledged vampire. Because as he put it, because you had my consent to take my blood, I have actually become part of you. He's not just a familiar. He's kind of merged with her. It's a little bit different than the relationship, not even a little. It's very different than the relationship Alucard has with all the familiars under his control, because he basically just took that blood by force. Here it was a agreed decision. And so, because of that, and because that's him as well as Alucard, the two really big influential male figures in her life who have really dictated her journey, I feel like this would be one of those rare circumstances where the individual has the opposite gendered Zanpakuto, the opposite sex. And we don't see that a lot. Like I said, I think there's 4 confirmed male characters that have female Zanpakutos. There was the 8th Kenpachi Azashiro, who has a female Zanpakuto, which takes the form of his sister. Nozarashi, which is the form of Yajiro and Bankai, and I would guess looks like a pink-haired version of Unohana, probably, or at least akin to that. In its Shikai form, though we don't have no confirmation of that to be sure. Katen Kyokatsui is also a female-based Zanpakuto. We know that for a fact. Hiraku Zanpakuto. And Benihime. We know Urahara Zanpakuto is a female-based Zanpakuto. But that's it. And I don't know of any female character that has a male-based Zanpakuto, like a male Zanpakuto. I don't know of any female character at any rate that does. Even if we were to go with the Zanpakuto Rebellion arc, which is not canon, but the designs were thought up by Kubo. Even then, and by the way, Zabimaru is a male Zanpakuto. That the female Zanpakuto thing was not canon at all. Remember, that's a filler arc. Yeah, he worked on the designs, and some of those designs carried over into canon. But we've seen Zabimaru. We know it's a male. So, yeah. So, there's that. But yeah, I can't think of, even in the Rebellion arc, any Zanpakuto that belonged to a female character that was male. I can't, except for maybe, and this is a big maybe Minazuki. But Minazuki, we never even heard talk. So we don't know for certain if Minazuki is a male or a female. I say all that because even though it's really not important for the great context here, it's just important to know that occasionally you can have a character of one sex or gender have the opposite sex or gender for their Zanpakuto spirit. So that's all that. That's the only reason that's important. Now, that being said, what is the Zanpakuto? What does it actually do? Well, as I said in the beginning, it's very similar to Alucard's in the sense that it's blood manipulation. However, Seras has a much better morality and sense of justice than Alucard does. So I think the opposite of taking people's blood, or cutting and stealing liquid, is actually to use her own blood and manipulate her own blood. It's basically a weaker version of his Bankai, where the Shikai and the Bankai are like kind of merged into one, just doing horrifying things. She can only manipulate her blood, but the difference here immediately is her blood, while in Shikai, can replenish at an extended rate. Add on the fact that because it's also Ryatsu and Reishi, all that, she can replenish her blood through the absorption of Reishi. Granted, she's not a Quincy. Shinigami can't do it at the same rate as Quincy do, but that would be probably a secondary ability of her Zanpakuto, is to allow herself to kind of absorb the Reishi in the target that she cuts. Not blood, mind you, but the Reishi of something. So that can help replenish her blood to a certain degree, especially if she's like using a weird like blood Getsuka Tensho and it hits someone, but then she's like anemic temporarily. She didn't just cut something and replenish her blood. Because she's not taking it from an unwilling victim or even a willing victim. She's taking it from a sentient spot. And it can basically act as a surrogate. Now, granted, a weakness of this Shikai would obviously be she has a limited supply of blood in her body. So she's kind of stuck at close to mid-range when it comes to her Zanpakuto. But at the same time, as long as she can keep replenishing her blood at the rate that she can do it, like she isn't going to immediately take, like say, cut a tree down and absorb the amount of reishi she needs if she has lost like a pint of blood per se. She needs to keep cutting in order to get the amount of reishi to replenish her blood. So it's kind of a race in terms of how much blood. If she uses too much blood, how much of it can she get back in time? So if a skilled or fast enough opponent can basically just overwhelm her. Also, another weakness of this sword, weirdly enough, this sword is terrible for fighting in midair combat. Because the only thing she could theoretically cut is her opponent, and that's assuming she can cut the opponent. If she's up against a wall against a stronger opponent, she's in trouble because she has nothing to cut. Yeah, there's some air in the atmosphere, or reishi in the atmosphere, certainly, but that's baby change right there. That's baby food compared to what she would actually need to replenish herself. Mind you, she'd also not be stupid enough to just waste her blood willy-nilly. It's one of those scenarios where she's doing a whole bunch of cool effects, but the blood, by all accounts, is still a part of her body. It would return to her body if she wants it to. This now leads into the Bankai, which is kind of a full mass effect of I'm going to absorb all the reishi in the area, give myself all this excess blood, turn it into excess blood for me, and basically wear a giant blood mech. It's kind of a giant blood monster she's roaming around in. It has all the same effects as her Zanpakuto does, or as her Shikai does, just amplified. But the bigger catch-22 here is while in the, let's call it the kaiju, if you will, the blood kaiju, she is unable to absorb any other outside reishi to increase her blood count. So her losing that blood, she can't restore it. She has to basically use it as is until either she's got a free hand or her Bankai runs out. Oh, and also against other blood manipulation, say Zanpakutos, like Alucard's is stronger because it doesn't just use his blood, it uses all the blood. Where she's not actually able to really steal people's blood. That's the big difference, I think, between the two. Alucard can just forcibly take blood if he wants. She can't, because she, again, in sense of justice moral, she'd rather use her own power and sacrifice her own body rather than hurt someone else, which I think would translate into the Zanpakuto. So that's why, even though technically it sounds like hers is stronger than Alucard's would basically make mincemeat of hers. But, I mean, it still has all the effects of, like, reishi-infused blood. It could still, like, harden if she needed it to. It could still overwhelm an opponent. It can douse flames to a certain degree. It is, because blood has iron content, it is a little vulnerable to, like, magnets or things along those lines. But, that's something we haven't seen, I just realized. We have not seen a magnetic... I think I brought this up with Lisa Yarimaru, because we haven't seen what her Zanpakuto does. based on the name Iron Drink Butterfly, I'd be hoping something like magnetism. But we haven't seen like a magnetism-based Zanpakuto yet. So that's a cool idea. And how would you do that in the idea of Bleach? Because obviously Zanpakuto, while technically metal, are also different than your standard weapons. Regardless, I still think it'd be a cool Zanpakuto for her, absolutely. It would be a Zanpakuto that certainly, I think, works in terms of her type of character. Still, the vampire side of her is who she is now, but she is a much more kind-hearted, more moralistic, is that a word? Moral-centric individual than, say, Alucard was. So I think it does need to provide a change to the type of Zanpakuto. Still blood-based, but in a different way than Alucard's. Because it's fine to have Zanpakuto to do the same thing, just in different ways. We have multiple fire-type Zanpakuto. I'm sure there are multiple water types. We know there's multiple ice types, multiple, many different types of Zanpakuto out there. So it's just a matter of what is this variation on this idea. I think this works for her, but let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Later.